I think we are good. Uh, okay. Hey everyone, welcome to this session of the second machine coding webinar. In this, I'll be covering the Metrics SDK, or you can even call it Analytics SDK. Anything is fine. Um, so, before I begin, I want to understand, has any one of you heard of Metric SDK or worked on it SDK? Like, what is your understanding of what is in metrics or analytics?
Like from what I understand, it is for tracking and funneling of data, right? Let's say if you have a flow, right, where you want to understand how the user interacted with you, like what are the clicks were, what was the failure rate, all those dashboards and all. Like you have Google Analytics, you have, I think Adobe also provides the analytics for, right? So when you place that in your project, right?
Hmm.
So let's say you have to track how many logins are there. Like let's say people clicked on login or people clicked on sign up, but
Hmm.
did
Hmm.
not complete the sign up flow.
Hmm.
So you channel a proper, you have a funnel for using the events. You can create a funnel and find out the breakpoints or something like that.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, really good explanation. Thanks. Thanks. Anyone else wants to add to it or something else?
So we sometimes use Pando as well as a tracking metric. So to see how the user uses our sites, web apps. So there will be metrics in the Pando, and also for dev side, we can have Azure Analytics. So that can we can store our logs there and get them.
Got it. Okay. Okay. One second. Yeah. So yeah, though that's what the practical use cases of metrics are. So basically, let's say if you are having a website, you want to track the usage, you want to know what features are getting used, you want to know what is the user journey, how exactly once he logs in, how is he using the app. You want to know the drop off points, as Saksham mentioned. Right. So all these things can be tracked using analytics or metrics. Sometimes you do it on your own, or sometimes there are third party scripts. Okay, but either ways, you can track metrics. But this is very high intensive operation because for each and everything that you're doing, for example, a user is going to your application, he's clicking a button, he's going to clicking a tab, he's entering a form, he's clicking submit, he's changing the status or whatever, lot of things that are there that is happening. Even a page change event, he goes to some different page. All of these are different events, okay, which is important for you. So you might be collecting a lot of such events. Now batching them together and processing is really critical because in a, let's say, 5 minutes user might send 100 events, or let's say even under 1 minute user can send 100 events, depends totally how he is using it. But at scale, if you just see, there are like lots of people sending a lot of events. So there are like two parts to this. One is how do you handle in the server, and one is how do you aggregate in the front end in the browser. So the front end part is what we're going to look into this session. And also there's a very important and I guess frequently asked question in interviews. So for me, this was asked in an Uber staff front end engineer interview. So yeah, that's the context. Uh, so let's read to the problem. One second. What is the actual problem statement? Not network interceptor. Okay, just a second. So, design and implement a metric SDK. It can also be known as an analytics SDK that collects events like analytics, logs, telemetry data, and sends them to server efficiently. Now, instead of sending each event immediately, the SDK should batch the events and flush them on configurable conditions. The requirements is like event queuing, like accept events via track event. There will be a method track, and you queue them. Then batch flushing, send events to the server in batches, not individually. And flush conditions, like when do you flush it? Like when once you batch it, when do you send it? So queue reaches a maximum size, example 10. Again, that can be configurable. An interval elapse, for example 5 seconds. Let's say you want to send every 5 seconds regardless whether it's 10 events or not. So that's another condition. And the flush method is called manually. So even under certain conditions, you can do it manually. Can someone tell me when is one condition you can think of where you want to flush manually? We have one condition where it's like once we get 10 events, we send it. Or if 5 seconds have elapsed, we send it. But can you think of any condition where you want to manually flush? Anyone? Okay, so it's written exactly below that flush on page unload. So basically, let's say user closes a tab or just leaves the tab, whatever. So at that time, you still want to send the events because you don't know when the user is going to come back. So you don't want to wait for 5 seconds or anything like. Or let's say user closes the tab. Now you can't wait for 5 seconds. You have to immediately send the event, right? So that is one of the most practical use case where you want to use flush. And then error handling like handle failed flush attempts gracefully, and configurable, so batch size, flush interval, endpoint. Obviously endpoint is definitely customizable, it should be, but along with endpoint, your batch size and your flush interval should be configurable. Now, an example usage I've given over here. Matrix, you create a new Matrix SDK class and no, object, and that you pass the initialize and constructor properties, which is like endpoint you will need max batch size, and you will use flush interval. Okay, oops, clicked on it. Yeah. And then for tracking, you have once you get the instance of this object, you can just click. So not click. You can use the dot track method. So metrics dot track, you will have to pass two things. One is the event what you want to track, and the page. Now this is customizable. And for this example, I'm keeping it simple, but you can have as many properties as you want in the um, track function. But for simple, it will be like event, what kind of event it is, and what page it is, or if it's like a button click, which button it is, if it's a purchase, what amount it is. So sort of a contextual way. And then if you want to flush, you just do await matrix dot flush. And if you want to destroy cleanup, so let's say you have done your unloading, right? You once your user clicks your comes out of your page, or let's say certain part of your application you are not doing any analytics, so you might want to clean up. So at that time you will call matrix dot destroy. Real world applications, yeah, as some of the people mentioned here, analytics, Google Analytics, mixed panel, amplitude, logging, Datadogs, entry, log rocket, telemetry, performance metrics, error tracking, even for IoT, right? Internet of Things. If you have certain elements in your home where you're using Internet of Things, even that has to periodically send events. So even for that, it's there. So it's not just for analytics; it's also for logging and telemetry, all those things. Any questions in the questions in the problem statement itself? Do you need any clarity?
No, it's clear.
So
Thanks. Any questions or yeah, Monique? Go ahead.
I have a question regarding the track method, like how it will be performed, like how it will track things. Like I'm a bit confused in that track.
Yeah. So how it will do it, we will see implementation. But in terms of problem statement, this is what they will give, that you have to have a track function. Now, how do you implement? That's totally up to you, and we'll see it in this session.
Okay.
so do we need to worry about storage when we need to clear these logs events from the storage or anything?
Yeah, so that will come like sort of like edge cases, or you would say some scenarios like which are real world. For example, let's say if you go offline, if the client goes offline, or if your server is down, then you can't send it, right? Even if you send, it will not acknowledge it. Server will not acknowledge it. So in that case, you might have to store these things in some kind of storage, either local storage or index DB. It depends on amount of data, what kind of data it is. So yeah, we will discuss about that at the end. Good. Thanks for those questions. Now let me show you the overall architecture and key concepts. Okay, so key concepts that you will learn. One is queuing. Event queuing. Actually, these are very common questions. Like lot people sometimes. I don't know if you face this question. Like progress bar questions will be there. Like there are up to three progress bar that you can add, and then it will go for certain seconds, and then you can queue more progress bars. So normal event batching or event queuing also questions are asked in machine coding. So you will understand that concept and you'll be able to build those things on your own. Then we have like debouncing throttling. Most of you might be aware, but we will still uh, go over it. Timer management, right? Using set time, the timeout and set interval correctly. Page lifecycle events. Now, as I told, right, if the user goes off the page, right, or closes the tab, so we'll have to see the visibility change. Visibility change specifically like if he goes out of the tab, if he switches the tab. And Beacon API. Anyone here aware of Beacon API? Anyone heard of it?
Like,
Yeah,
I have heard of it, but I don't remember right now what it works on.
Okay. Someone else was saying also they.
yeah, I read it once, but not implemented this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So basically, it's used to reliably send data when the app is in background. So basically, that's there. We'll see how. Okay. Class-based design. So I'm not sure how many of you attended my previous session, but in the previous session we had used a function like it was a factory plus decorator pattern, but eventually we are using functions. Okay, here we are going to use Metrics SDK class, and we'll understand why this requires class and why that was a function. So if someone has attended that session or even seen the recording, you will be able to understand. Let me. We don't need terminal as of now. Right? Let me just close it. So this will be our overall architecture. I don't know if I can zoom it. No, I don't know why they even give this, but okay. Uh, so we'll have our metrics SDK, actually our class in which we'll have track event. What track event will do? It will add it to a queue. Now we will see if the queue is full or not. If the queue is full, it is yes, then we flush. But let's say if queue is not full, let's say it's the first event, then we have to start the timer because we have two conditions like either 10 events get collected or we have 5 seconds since last call. So we will have the timer running. We'll see if it's yes, okay, the timer is already running. If it's not, then we start a new timer. And if timer expires, then we flush it. Okay, there are external triggers also like page unload, if someone closes the tab, or manual flush. Like for some maybe some other scenarios we are calling the flush method separately. So in either of those cases, we'll go flush now, and then that flush now eventually we'll call the API and send the batch to the server, and we will clear the queue and timer. This is really important. You have to clear the queue and timer. Otherwise, like obviously you will have the same queue and timer also you need to reset. So this is the overall flow. That's how the high level or implementation will be. Any questions here? Nope. Okay. Okay. Now, first step will be the class structure and configuration. Okay. So let's understand what our SDK needs to manage. What is the configuration? Where to send the data? How many to batch? How long to wait? The endpoint, the interval, and the max batch size. Second is the queue. We need a queue, right, to maintain, to hold the events before sending it. Third is the timer. Okay, where exactly like how much time has it elapsed since the last request, and the flush lock, a flag to prevent multiple flushing simultaneously. Now, this particular thing you might not understand as of now. We'll understand when we do the implementation. But the first three, I hope it is clear that we need the configuration and we need the queue and need the timer. Correct. So, when do you use a class-based approach in contrast to a function-based approach? Because in network interceptor, if you remember, we were using the function-based approach, where we are having a create interceptor function, which was a factory plus decorator pattern, which was returning as a network interceptor function. Okay. Here we need to maintain a state across multiple method calls. In network interceptor, each request was independent. I did not have to maintain a state between different network interceptor instances. It was all within the network interceptor. Like it would used to collect logs, it used to do some pre-hooks, the post hooks, retry mechanism, everything. And the configuration was per object. Okay. So there was nothing such as state sharing between different method calls. Here it is the queue, timer, right? So that's why we require the class-based approach over here. And we also need a cleanup capabilities, right? We will have to do the destroy method, and uh, it's an entire life cycle where you do creation, you use, and you have destroy. And when you have this entire life cycle, it's better to go with a class-based approach rather than a function-based approach. So let me show you the, for those who might not be aware of the network interceptor. So this was the network interceptor where we are in a function, right? This is a creator function which was returning us a intercepted fetch function. Okay, so it was a factory plus decorator pattern which was returning a function. Here we are going to implement using class, and I have explained why we are using class. Any questions here? Okay, I think I hope everything is clear. Since we don't need this. Okay, let's go here. Okay, Matrix SDK. It's completely empty. Also.
I have one query.
Yeah.
First, is flash lock refer to the last step before the rejection, canceling? Like let's say I call a flush and in that flush complete, I again call a flush and handle that first flush call cancellation.
I'm not quite able to hear you, but what I understand is like if there are like multiple flushes, is that the question?
Yeah,
Like,
correct.
yeah, yeah. So we will handle that. So for that, I have added this flush lock flag to prevent multiple flushes running simultaneously. So we'll discuss that in detail.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, cool. So now let's start the implementation. Obviously, we'll have a class Metrics SDK, and which will be having our constructor, which will have a config for sure. And let me close that before. Now, what do you think? Okay, it's already suggesting, but should I disable this? But I think sometimes helps also. Auto complete. Suggestions on editor. Yeah, is the way of this. What happens? Do I get suggestions now? Nope. Now I don't get it. Cool. 1 second. Okay. Cool. So we have our constructor, which will take a config object. What will our config object contain? Can someone tell me?
So the endpoint to send the request, and then our maximum batch size, and the timeout when we want to flush our request. Yeah, we want to send as a bulk.
Awesome. Awesome.
So we have to maintain a queue.
Yeah. So, but make queue will not be in part of config. Currently, we are discussing the config. Yeah, but after that there will be a queue. Correct. So this dot endpoint, I would say config dot endpoint, or we'll have a default one. Right. Slash.
Sorry to interrupt. I am hearing a lot of echo. Can please
Uh,
everyone can go on mute?
Let me see. Oh, is it? Okay, I think I. Okay.
One thing should be a request ID, right? So what I was thinking, like let's say a user logs in from two different browsers,
Hmm, hmm.
right? So we need to identify two different unique sessions, right? Otherwise, if you use something like user ID, then the events will clash.
Got it. So in that case, I think we can more rely on the auth token because if they are doing in two different browsers, they will have to do different auth tokens. So some basically some kind of unique identifier it will be there. Yeah. So yeah, we can have that. But here we are focusing mostly on like the event tracking part. So those unique identifier are important. I totally agree with you. You can mention that, but let's keep it simple. Here's matchbacks. Match. Sorry, not match. Match batch. Okay, I mixed it. Max and batch. So equals to config dot max batch size, and we'll go to some default like 10. And this someone said something.
Flush timer.
Yeah, yeah. Flush interval equals to config dot flush interval, and by default we'll give it 5000 milliseconds. So that's 5 seconds. Okay. Now, as someone also mentioned, we'll need a queue, which is obvious. We'll need a queue. This dot queue. And what else? What else do you think? What other state needs to be managed?
So to timer state, right?
Yes. So timer equals null. What else? Hmm. What else? To know flushing or not, it's flushing. So it will be false. Abhishek, a lot of background noise is coming from your mic. Thanks. Okay. And yeah, so this is what sort of config and state for state management we require. But there are certain other things that we will require. Let me explain that. One thing is that you will require certain sort of listeners, okay, to listen for any event, right? And another is like you need a handle visibility change method. So those two are additional features that you'll develop on. Okay, not as of now. For basic metric SDK, you don't need it, but I'm just going to mention it here. So let me just write it here. Setup listeners. We'll talk about this in detail. If you're not understanding now, it's fine. And we will need a handle visibility change. So whenever you're implementing this thing in the interview, don't focus on this for now. First, implement the basic metrics SDK. Then you can do all this advanced or intermediate thing if you get time. Okay. So now we are good with this. Next, let's go to
So one question. So
yeah.
will our class will be a singleton, or how will do we will initialize at some point and export as a global variable, so every component can consume the same instance of the metrics SDK class.
Yeah, it will be singleton, and that's why the state sharing, so that you can create as many instances as you want, but it will be. But wait a second. If you're using this over here, uh,
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 no, no. So this will be not a sharing state, right?
this
Because
will
this is based on the instance. Yeah.
correct. So it will be for per instance. It will not be because if you're using this dot q, then it will be only for that particular object. It's not a global thing. So it will be per object, per object. So it won't be a singleton.
So might be we can what we can do. We can initialize at some point, right? By bootstrapping the our application, and we can store as a global variable. So we follow this pattern. So we have lots of configs in our company. So while bootstrapping our application, what we will do, we initialize those things and store as a global variable. So every component can leverage the things
Correct,
the
correct,
same
correct.
instant.
Correct, correct. Yeah. And in that, you can even use certain concepts that we had in network interceptor, because it works because it doesn't have any state sharing. So it works in a similar fashion as you described. So yeah. So now these are like the default config and stuffs. But one main thing which is missing is like the track event, right? Track function. And we will have destroy, or let's say flush first now, flush and destroy. Okay.
uh, Registering timing will be handled in a track event or separately?
Registering time as in.
Registering timer, right? So
Hmm.
whenever we get the first request, we need
Correct.
to track 5 seconds for that, right? So
Mhm.
meanwhile, whatever the request come, we will batch it, otherwise we will
So,
flush.
yeah, it will be started in the track. It will be started. Got it. Okay. So for our track method, what we're going to do is that like we have to enrich the event, right? Add metadata like timestamp or unique ID. That's the first thing. Here exactly, you can even no, user ID will be global, so not needed to add here. When you that can happen when you do this request sent. So in the flush, when you do the flush, when you make the request, at that time you can get the user ID. So here we will do enrich the event, what time it was, what is the unique ID, and if any other metadata you want to add. Okay, then you add it to the queue, and then you check the flush conditions, right? Because it's like 11th event, right? Or when you're adding the timer has expired, like 5 seconds has done, then you have to immediately flush and manage the timer, like start the timer if it's not already started. So these are the things that you would do in the track. So let's start implementing track one. So first one is like you enrich the event, const enrich event. So first you will okay, it will, this will have an event, right, itself. If someone has forgotten like how is this event, it's an object. Okay, let me show you in the question. So it will be like this is the entire object, event object. Okay, so that will be passed. So we, what we'll do is we will first spread that event thing, and on top of that we will have our timestamp, and anyone attended my last session, can someone tell me like what is the best way to add the timestamp here, and then this start. Anyone know? So okay, even if you're not attended my last session, like what do you think is the best way to generate a timestamp?
Yeah, I think it's just using the constructor, right? Date constructor,
So
new
like
date.
new date.
Yeah,
Date.get timestamp.
dot UTC something. New
Yeah.
date,
So it
new
is
date.
yeah, correct. So it will be like you have to use the ISO string. So there's a function in the date ISO string, and why do we need that? Is because you have to take care of like your application is being used across different time zones. So you have to make sure that, yeah, let's say if I have at 10 a.m., if I in India at 10 a.m. I do something, and someone does same thing in US time zone 10 a.m. Now both event can't be same, right? Because 10 a.m. there is like our night, so it has to be converted to a UTC time zone. So because we ours is GMT plus 5:30, theirs is something else. So when you actually collect the logs, you have to know exactly what happens when happened. So that's why you have to convert it into a UTC time zone, and you use the two ISO string function for that. So I'll just pick it up from the network interceptor. Add created. Yeah, so it is this no start time, right? So new date dot to ISO. This is important. This makes this clearly differentiated between how experienced you are in your career. You can just date dot. Some people do date dot now, which is fine for till mid level. Let's say till up to 5 years or 4 years of experience. If you do date dot now, it's fine. If you're 5 plus years experience and you are using date dot now, it might not work as a positive point for you. So yeah, so when you do it dot ISO string, this ID generator, you don't have to discuss much. You can say this is a random function that will be there, or you can just use math dot random. That's also fine. Math dot random dot toString, something you can do like that. Okay. Yeah, if you want, there's just don't think about creating, because in real life you'll be using UUID or something like that. So this is like you are enriching the event. You can even add more data if you want, but like, let's not waste more time on enriching the data as of now. Now, what you will do, you will have the queue, right? So in this queue, you will do this dot queue dot push, and you will say enrich event. You have pushed the event now, okay? And then once you push the queue, now what do you think? What you'll do?
Checking the timer if there is already ongoing timer,
Hmm.
or
And
we
I'll
need to set up a new one.
zoom in a bit so you are able to see it better. Should I do one more? I think this should be fine. Yeah, so one is checking the timer. So before timer, anything else if you want to check?
I think should we also check if there is something? I mean, if flushing is also in progress.
Yeah, flushing is also in progress. We'll check only when we are about to flush, right?
Okay.
So
Whether the
length,
queue is full.
we'll check queue length, and after that we'll check for the.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear.
First, we will look for the queue length. If queue length is
Correct, correct. So first, let's look for the queue. This queue length. LENGTH greater than or equal to what?
The config length, the config.
Threshold. Sorry. Max patch.
Match backside, right? This dot match backside. Okay. Then so if that is so, then what do we do?
Flush the request.
This dot flush.
Okay. And whether checking whether we should flush or not, if there is ongoing flush, we'll take care of it in flush method itself, because we don't want to do it again and again separately everywhere else. We want to keep it modular, so we'll do it in flush method itself. Okay. And if this is done, then we'll return early. I mean, you don't need to do anything else in this function. So what else do you think we'll be doing in this function?
Clearing the queue then.
Clearing the queue. Now again, that everything flush. So all those functionality is related to sending the request, checking if existing flush is there or not, or clearing the queue should happen inside flush. Otherwise, you'll keep repeating that code everywhere.
Timer part.
Timer part. So we will do the start timer here. Start timer. Now, checking whether the timer is up or not, we won't do it here. Right? We will do it. We'll come to it. I'll show you. But that part we won't do, because whenever you're adding, because we will be getting a lot of events in like within 5 seconds. So you don't want to be checking the timer again and again, again and again. So we'll see that. We'll see that part also. Okay. Now coming to the next part, we will have our start timer. So this function. Okay. So let's define the start timer function. Where it is. So start timer. So we will first check whether its timer is existing or not, like it's already initialized or not. So by default, if you see, we have initialized as null. Okay. So we'll first see whether our timer is initialized or not. If it is initialized, we don't want to do anything. Return, right? Right. We don't want to do anything. And otherwise, what we do is this dot timer. Okay, can someone tell me how should I initialize the timer? Like what will be there in this dot timer?
Or set timeout.
Set timeout. Okay, set timeout, and what will be there in the callback?
Then after that function call will be execute which drag uh,
Which
and
function?
the basically flush.
Flush. Correct. This dot flush
And
and time.
config config
Yeah.
config
So it will be
pass
this dot flush interval. So just remember everything we get from the config in the constructor itself, we are adding it as a class fields, class properties. This dot endpoint is dot match backs match max batch and this dot flush interval. So yeah, this will be our timer function. Okay. Uh, and if you want, you can even keep this simple. Like let's do this. If not, then we do this. Okay. So let's okay. So I think we are good with timer. Now, what else? Okay. Now next function is the flushing part. So
Hi, Apple. I have a doubt. Like, don't we need to reset the timer like whenever we get a new, event, so that it's not fixed? So we wait for a specific interval when there is no event. We have to say something like a debouncing. Yeah.
correct. So that part we are going to take care in flush. So let's implement this and then we'll discuss that. Okay. Okay. But I got the question. The clearing of time interval. So in the flush function, what we'll do is like we will have our. By the way, this is going to be an async function. Async. Spelling it correct. Because when you make an API request, it will be an async request, right? It will return a promise, so you have to await it or dot. Then you can do, but like yeah, let's keep this async function. So first, the foremost thing, what we should check.
Whether there is a flushing is already happening.
Correct. So if this dot is flushing, if it is already happening, we return. We don't do anything. Okay. Now, now we have checked the flush. Okay. So what we're gonna do is like one more guardrail, but this it's fine even if you don't do this, but it's fine. You can do this. This is an optimization you can do, but it's fine. This dot q is equals to dot length is equals 0. So in that case also you don't want to do anything, you want to return, right? And you can even combine these two. So let me combine these two, it makes more sense. Because there's nothing to flush. Let's say 5 seconds happen, but there's nothing to flush, right? Why will you flush?
it would be or right.
Sorry?
There would be or condition
Hmm.
flushing or queue length.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Thanks for that. Okay. Now we know that we are going to flush. So what's the first thing we have to do?
Lock it first, the flag.
Yeah. So this dot is flushing is true. Okay, great. So now we are locking the flush, so no other flush can happen at the same time. And what we are going to do is this is one important thing that uh, you will create a copy of the queue. This dot queue, and then you will empty the queue. Now, can someone tell me why did we need to, or why do we need to create a copy of the queue?
Because while flushing, if some request come, we need to handle that as well.
Correct,
So
exactly.
that is the reason.
Exactly. So what we do is we create a copy and immediately we empty the array, so that if anything else is coming, it will be part of the next flush. Because let's say if we just we are using this queue itself, right? The queue array itself to flush, but in the meantime we have some other events, right? So then that those will be lost, because at the end you will also clear the queue. So let's say we are processing the queue, and we process the queue, and then we emptied the queue. So in between, let's say 2 3 events, or how many events came, they get lost. So this is a really important difference again between someone who is junior, mid level, and senior staff, that you have to understand this minute difference, this sort of edge case, right? So you have to create a copy of the queue and then empty the queue immediately, so that any new events will be captured.
So
Then
we clear the timer also now, right?
yeah, we have to do that. Yeah, we'll do next techniques. Now we have to check this dot if this dot timer, if we see if the timer is there, then we will clear the timer. Clear timeout this. Clear timeout this dot timer. Okay, and after clearing it, we'll make sure we are initializing it back to the null. Okay, so because our default value is null, right? And while starting the timer also we are checking, right? You can explicitly also add it like, but I think two nulls don't compare, I don't know, but like, yeah, here we'll keep it by default null, and make sure after you clear the timeout, that's not it, you have to initialize it back to null. Okay, then so this is another thing that we have to do, we have to clear the timeout. Now what we do, now we actually make the request. So we'll have const response equals to await fetch this dot endpoint, we got it from the config, and then we have the options where we'll give method as post, headers if you want to give. So here is the part where someone mentioned about the odds token, and like basically user identification, right? This is where you'll add that user identification. So I'll just say user identification, uh, or user metadata, because at the time of constructor of initializing any metric SDK, you don't need that data. You only need it when you're actually making the request. So it will be there in your cookies, or maybe session storage, however you're storing it. But ideally, hopefully, cookies. So you can
Yeah.
get it from there.
Bearer token as well.
Bearer token. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
I think
So
basically. Hmm.
we store there, and so our server, I mean, the backend doesn't need to know who is the user. I mean, so bearer token will have some information and authentication as well, right?
Correct, correct. Okay.
Uh, but in a third party SDK, if another company is using our SDK as a third party, they won't allow to expose their bearer token, right?
They won't allow to.
They will not want that their bearer tokens will go outside of their system.
Yeah, so then basically somehow they will be like, because if you are having any third party encrypt added in your own website, there is some kind of authentication happening. So the some kind of token will be there, right? It could be a service token, it could be anything, and some kind of user identification they will send, user ID or something. Using that internally they will do. So whatever that data is, you send it basically.
So there would be some combination of sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, and it not necessarily be a part of headers, right? I'm just giving you an example of headers here, but it not necessarily be part of headers.
Got
It can be, you can add the user ID in the part of body. That's also fine. Right? It can be some custom header, anything. That implementation detail is like how our API decides. And here we'll just do this under stringify of the events, which is batch. We added in our batch function, right? Batch object. So yeah, so this is how we'll do it. Ideally, you will have a try catch. So just this, I'm just giving for normal function, but you will have a try catch and you will handle the error properly. But this is how you will do it. Okay. And one more thing. Once this is done, what do you do? Is it complete, or is it something is remaining?
We have to set the flag as false.
Yeah. This oops, flush equals false. Now again, one more thing I would like to tell. Whatever you did, if you're in flush as part of flushing, you should do it in within that function only. Okay.
Uh, I think, Apu, I think we have used a wrong variable here. It should be is flushing, right, in line number 74.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry. Is flush.
And also maybe just to add a point, just a try catch with finally is full. I mean, finally maybe is flush. I mean,
Correct,
just
correct.
an
If you're using try catch,
maybe.
yeah, then it will be in finally. Absolutely
Yeah,
correct. Correct.
yeah.
Here
I
we
mean,
have,
just we are using fetch,
mm,
right? So I
yeah,
mean, just third point. Yeah. Go
exactly.
on, yeah, sorry.
Correct. And you can do that even in it won't take much time. So you can just let's add it. Try. Uh, it can be default, so don't waste much time in that because interview won't get that much time. But you will do like try catch error process error. Just leave it blank. Don't need to do, and then finally. I don't think finally is a function, right? Or is it? Let me check.
No, no,
Correct.
no, without the brackets. Yeah,
Yeah.
directly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But will that make a difference, like putting the flag within finally or maybe after this anyhow, by the order of execution, it won't make a difference, right? Like it's just a general question I have.
No, because it might make a difference because here if you have any error or something, the rest of the
Mhm.
code will not get executed if you are not having it in try catch and finally.
If there's
No,
an exception thrown, then definitely it won't, right? I mean, if the try catch is not at all, I mean, wrapped, right? And if which throws an exception, I mean, which means an error, sorry, in JavaScript, then the below code won't even execute, right? I mean, now
uh,
it is correct without with the
yeah,
try
yeah,
catch, and
yeah.
even
Correct,
finally,
correct.
it doesn't matter much
Yes. Yeah. With if
because,
you have try catch, I think most probably that's
yeah,
the
definitely, I agree on that. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, doesn't make any sense there, correct? Yeah, but yeah, understood.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's saying, Apurva, is like, I mean, anyways, after 78, the code, I mean, the code goes there, right? So with the try catch, so there, I mean, there isn't specially finally required.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after the catch, yeah, just maybe,
Uh,
maybe we can proceed.
I have one query here. So we already clear our queue. So let's say this sending data get fail. We will lose to those events, right?
Yeah. So in that case, in catch, you will again populate the queue. So this dot queue equals to batch. You will do in the error handling part.
Yeah.
Or not equals to, but I'll spread it basically because I don't want to lose existing thing. So basically, this.
We first like all the events will be added first time.
Sorry.
Which will be add in the first, right?
Yeah,
I'm
basically
correct.
that order. Yeah, again, yeah, something like this. It can happen. But also there is a distinction that now we did some okay, no, enriching all of them are enriched anyway. So yeah, this is how we'll do it. Yeah, correct. So error handling we can take care of it. So these are some of the follow up questions that the interviewer might have, and you should answer them. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, but what if while if the request is failed and we already have a queue is our queue is full of the 10 requests. So
Hmm.
now then,
Yeah, then that's another thing. Like if your queue is full, if you still have requests, then you have to pass it to either local storage or index DB. Like depends on how big your data structure is of the request of the event. So that is another thing. Like if you are for some reason, let's say either your server is down, right? This will happen in case of your server is down, or let's say your network issue is there. So it will go to cache. Sorry, yeah, cache. Then in that. Either you did flush either because timer ran out or 10 events happened. So if 10 events happen, so if you are having more than 10 events, you can have another logic where you push it to local storage. And then again, like for retrying it, either you can rely on service worker or that can be discussed. Does it answer or you have another question?
yeah, yeah.
Cool. But thanks. So that's why I have this live webinar so that we can discuss all these things. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, Gary, like as you mentioned, we will store those extra events in a local storage or something. Why do we need that? We already handled this case in Flush, right? If our Flush is in progress and meanwhile, if another Flush request come, we will return from the start only.
No, no, but if
So
your
one,
flush failed, if your fetch failed, you don't want to lose the data, right? Let's say your server is down for like 1 hour or
yeah.
something,
So that we already. Hmm.
but you already emptied your
Okay,
queue,
for temporary. Hmm.
right? You already emptied your queue. It has been
Uh,
like 10 minutes or something, and your queue is now
okay.
full with another event.
Okay, so after commenting 75 and 76, you are discussing. If we handle that queue handling after the error, then we don't need to store it in local storage.
No, no, you
If
might
we just
because in your queue you
76.
have your max length, right? You don't want to your queue to become having 50, 60 events. So that's why if it goes more than that, then you have to store it in local storage because that means
Got
your Metrics SDK is not working as designed. You wanted to flush after 10 events, but for some
yeah, yeah.
reason, either network error or your error, client error or client network error or server error, lots of events are getting captured. So then
Got
you will
yeah,
have,
logically. Yeah, but by design we don't want to store that. Got it.
yeah,
Like we want a queue length fix.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So this is what we had. We have our track and we have our flush collapse and start timer is also there in between, and then we have our flush. Okay. Now, two things that I mentioned earlier, which was one was setup listeners and one is handle visibility change. So those are like sort of intermediate or advanced edge cases that you may or may not have the time to do it in the interview, but I'll anyways discuss here. But before that, let's see if there's anything else missing. Yes. Okay, let's first finish destroy, then we'll do those two things. So in destroy, what we do is destroy is called basically when you someone close your tab or some basically some for some reason your application is now closed or the part of the application where you're tracking is now the user is out of that. So what is the how do you what do you do here?
We clear the timers if there are any. We
Yeah.
clear the
Mhm.
clear the queue. I mean, yeah. I mean queue. We don't need clear it, but maybe a timer.
So are we doing all those things anywhere?
Flush.
Yeah.
Flush. Yeah.
Directly called this one flush. So it will take care of it. And apart from that, why is this a separate function? Because you might have certain other cleanup you want to do if you added some event listener or some other things, right? So any other cleanup is required, you can do it here. That's why we have it as a separate function. Otherwise, we are just calling this dot flush. We're not doing anything else. Because flush will anyways take care of all those things. So that's our Matrix SDK. If you do this, you should be good in a machine coding round. If I am at the interview, I'll be more than happy if you're able to implement this working code because we'll have some working code where we can test it out. But this is good. Uh, if you get more time, either you discuss this handle visibility change and all those things, or if you have time, you can implement it. But let's first implement test this out actually. Okay, so
I have a doubt here. Like in the destroy function, why do we need to call a metric? Basically, the means destroy means we don't want to proceed or we don't care about the existing events, right?
no, no,
So
no, no. Destroy
basically,
doesn't mean that. Destroy
okay.
means your tab is closed. So let's say your user has done some events. The events are less than 10 and the timer is less than 5 seconds.
Okay.
And within 3 seconds, he closed the tab. Now we don't want to
Okay.
lose the events.
Okay. Then who will call the destroy? Like, is it under
It will
some
be like,
event?
for example, if it's a React component in the there's a callback function, right? You can pass use effect. So this will be your normal callback function. If you return something in that, here will be your
Yeah, it is the consumer's responsibility to destroy as well, right?
correct,
It
correct.
is
It consumer's responsibility to.
responsibility.
Okay.
So you will have
Okay.
your Metrics SDK instance, not Metrics SDK, but Metrics. I don't know why it's happening. But yeah, Metrics dot and then destroy.
Got it.
Consumer responsibility. Good. I'll just comment it here, keep it here. But thanks for asking that question and take. Cool. So, so now we know what is the purpose of destroy. Okay. Cool. Now let's try it out. I have the. Okay, let me show you demo HTML so that you guys know how I'm gonna test it. So it's a normal HTML file. I'll show you in some time. So we have our metrics SDK initialized with a metrics object, and we are just for you to log metrics is just for you to show it in UI. That's all. We have our track event function, which is eventually going to track metrics. It is eventually going to call metrics for track. Okay, and we will be if we are doing manual flush, then we are calling metrics.flush. And if we have a destroy SDK where we'll just do destroy metrics or destroy. So, and this you don't need to be worried about what this code is. You don't have to write this code. It's just how it's being used. I'm just showing you. So it's similar to how we had in our question the use of metric SDK. So like track, double click it. Track, flush, destroy. That's how it's being used.
For one more note here. So since we consume the flash within the destroy and flash being an async, shouldn't destroy also be a async method here?
Good point. Very good point. Yes, I think it should be. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Let me think, but I think it makes sense. Cool. Now let me show the demo. For that, I might have to change my screen, and I hope it works. Present something else. We should be entire screen last time. There was some issue. Able to see the demo HTML and the console log.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So let me clear. No, preserve log. Clear this. Okay. Now metric SDK is in. Let me refresh this. Yeah. So we have our metric SDK initialized. Okay, I'll do track event, and it's not working. Awesome. Data is data. Okay, I think date dot now I misspelled it.
Yeah, I did.
It was in track, right? Yeah, data. Okay, refresh. Hopefully this works. Track event. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I had 10 and it got flushed. But okay, I think our server is not up. I also created a server where which will accept the events. So, 1 second. We are in the right place. Okay, so our server is running. If you want to see server code, let me show you that so that it's clear. So in the server code, uh,
I think upper your screen. I think you have it in different
yeah,
screen maybe.
I'll do that. Okay, I'll show you the server code again later because I have to switch again and again. But yeah, I have up the server now. Refresh. Track 10. Okay, so now our event is gone. And if you see I have one more event, it should fire. Yeah, so it is now flashing. So now we have total two track events. One was when we had completed 10. One was because I just waited for 5 seconds and then it got triggered. So if you see this payload, it will have the first 10 events. So it is starting from 0, so 0 to 9. Okay, these are just random events that got created when I clicked. And the response will say success true, received. Oh, it should not be 0, it's 10, but that's the server configuration, so don't worry about that. And the second one should have just one. Yeah, it has just one. So our metric SDK is working as expected. So either if you receive cross 10 events, if I just keep cleaning. So this is how actually it's supposed to work because you will be receiving a lot of events. But if you see the actual API that is being called, it's called just batching them and calling them. This is exactly the functionality that you need. So if you see all of them will be 10 events. Yes. And the last one will have two because it has just a queue. So two. Good. Any questions here? Queries? Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
one. Yes. Why it only have two?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
In that request, why we only have two entries? Is it
Because I
because
because I stopped at two. So I did this track event. I just clicked twice. That's all. I clicked it twice. So the flush will be triggered either two times, right? Either the 10 events are done or the 5 seconds timer is gone.
in,
So after
okay?
two track events, I didn't do anything. So 5 seconds happened and it flushed.
Got it. Got it.
Good. Okay. And we can even test destroy. So let me have a certain events. Let me first clear this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and destroy. So I clicked on destroy and it sent the 5 events that I had. So maybe user close the tab or whatever. So 6 events. I think yeah, six. I clicked 6 times. So all those 6 events, even though user went off, are sent. Okay. Any queries here? Okay. Then let's go back. I'll just show you the. How do I? Okay. Here. Okay, we are back to our terminal. Oh no, the coding screen. So this is the server.js. Very simple. I had some API events file endpoint where we are getting the events and just responding with that. That's all. Nothing else. And I mean, there's some bug in my code because it should say 10 events, but it's not for some reason not. But that's fine. Like, anyways, we are able to see that events are getting sent. Server part is for testing, so it's okay. Um, let's go back in Metrics SDK. Okay. So yeah, so one thing that is remaining is the handle visibility change. So let's try to implement that. Handle visibility change. So here what happens, and yeah, one more thing. This needs to be a arrow function. Now, can someone tell me why this needs to be an arrow function and why others were like normal function?
It might not access the class object with
Yeah, I couldn't hear anyone. Can someone?
because of this handling.
Yeah, because of this handling. But can someone elaborate why?
it might not access any of the class objects. It might be a static kind of a method.
No, no, that's not the reason.
Sorry, could you just repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so basically, we had all the functions or methods directly defined in a normal function.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
one is arrow function.
yeah.
Why? Why like that?
I think to the this scope, I think. Is
Yeah,
it?
that any was Manik told, but what exactly in this code?
What exactly in this scope? I think we can directly get the scope of the caller here. I think.
So,
I mean,
hmm,
wherever this method is called, we'll have that entire scope in this function instead
so
of the class scope.
correct, correct. So basically,
Yeah.
whenever you have your own, when you create an instance of matrix, okay, that is its own object, and if you have the handle visibility change as normal function, it will bind to your class, right? It will not be bind to your object. This binding, and that's the reason we have to create this with a normal arrow function rather than a normal, what is a general function definition. If you wanted this to be a general function definition, it will be really tricky. I'll tell you how that will be. You'll have to do it here. This dot handle visibility change equals to this dot, because it will be happening during the constructor function. It is supposed to be bind with the matrix object that you create. So this dot handle it will be really tricky. Dot bind this. This is how you will have to do it if you are doing it in the constructor. Okay. So that's why, to avoid this kind of a, this is valid code. This will work, but this is not something which is like easily understandable or something, and we have a better way to do it. So that's why we are going to use arrow functions, because arrow functions have a different way of what to say, handling the this keyword. So is this clear?
Yeah, yeah, clear. I think we might need to also create a new variable as well, right? I mean, to store that bind, because bind creates a new instance and we can't override that.
Yeah, no, by I did it right. That's what that it was control Z. This right.
Ah, okay. Then we are assigned to the same functions. Just same.
Okay, cool. So okay, here what we are going to do. Okay, let me just quickly. What time is it? Yeah, I'll just copy the code over here, and I'll explain it. But yeah, let me just copy the code. Where is it? So if the documents visibility hidden, okay, let's say if it's the user is gone to some different tab, okay, in that case, one second, yeah, the indentation was not proper. So what we do is we check if the queue dot length is 0, then obviously we don't do anything. Otherwise, we use the send beacon API. Okay, we use the send beacon API to send the request. Now, what is the difference between fetch and send beacon? Is send beacon is something it will just fire and forget. It will make the request. It doesn't care about the response, and this can also be used in destroy. But why? Because when you destroy the tab, okay, even if you fire the request, your tab is gone, your entire JavaScript thread is gone. How are you going to wait for the response? Your fetch API, let's say even if it made the call before, right, it can't wait for the response. because your tab is clear. Who is waiting for the response? Your JavaScript entire execution context is gone, right? So in that case, you have to use something like navigator.sendBeacon, which will just send the request and then it's done. You don't need to worry about the response, because anyways, if you are if the user is closing your tab, you are going to lose that events. So it's better to just send it via beacon. Now, if the server is down or anything, or if the client network is bad, that's an your bad luck. But otherwise, this is the best way, because if you do normal fetch and the user closes your tab, your fetch, by the time response happens, your entire JavaScript execution context is gone. You can't do anything. So that's why you use send beacon in that kind of scenarios. So I hope you guys now know what is beacon. It's a web API, and you can use navigator dot send beacon to use it. Okay, it's the API is same, like the URL and then the body, not exact same, but like similar. In usual fetch, this will be an options object, but yeah, this is just the endpoint and the JSON body. So yeah, so this is what we'll do in the handle visibility changed. Okay, and you have to add this listener, right? So for that, you will do setup listeners over here. Um, you can do it here. Yeah, you can have to do it here. This dot setup listeners. But where is this defined? So we have to define that setup listeners. Set listeners, normal function. What this will do is document dot add event listener visibility change. Visibility change is the event that you want to target. This dot handle visibility change. Here is where the this is important. So if it was just a class property, it will be undefined or something. But because you want it bind with the object that you create from the class, that's why you make it an as arrow function so that it's bind to that. Okay. Uh, cool. So I think to check this, just let me try it out first. Then I'll show you guys. Mm, here's our log. Event got cancelled. I think it was a ping event. Try again. Got cancelled. Okay, let me try this. Try. Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Let me change my screen. Okay, you guys can see the browser.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks. So let me refresh this once. And what we'll do is we'll have some track events 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we'll go somewhere else. We come back. If you see, this event is sent, and the type is ping. It's not fetch. Otherwise, your normal type will be fetch. I will show you that. Tack. This is fetch. This is ping. When you see ping, it's a beacon API. And if you see here, response, there will be no response because we are never waiting for the response. So that's how you do it. Even for destroy, you should ideally use beacon. Okay, not fetch. So is this clear? I hope it is. Let me.
I have some query. Maybe the doubt is like we are only switching the tab. We are listening for the particular event, right? So that will get fired only when we are switching the tab or anything. So what if we are switching the tab and the user comes back to the same tab? In between, the API has failed. Okay. Like you said, we don't care because it's like because it's we don't care about it. But still, if they come back, ideally they expect the event to be fired or something.
Correct.
So I think why don't we just simply call when the event is whenever they switch the tab, right? Why don't we simply call the flash one and one maybe on maybe like something like and before unload event we can listen to it, and only when we are doing browser close or tab close, at the time only we do this doomsday kind of thing, like just had a thought like wanted
Makes
to ask
sense.
you.
Exactly, this makes sense. So in a real implementation, you would use the unload event. So only in unload event you would send the beacon thing. Otherwise, if it's a tab switch, you can do flush still.
Okay, okay.
Totally makes sense. Yep. So ideally, if you are having this question in machine coding round, implementing flush, destroy, and track event is the key. This should be working code. You should be able to implement and test it given whatever code they have. Their test code they should ideally give. It should not be upon you, but like that's if you should be able to test it. And if you have time, you can then talk about the beacon API, handle visibility change, and other extra things. Okay, you're storing the events in local storage, like when or index DB if it's a API failure or something like that. Those are all the edge cases that you can discuss later. Don't need to implement them ideally. Uh, One second. I'm just thinking what else can be discussed in like a follow-up questions. Yeah. So you also have like a hard memory limits. Okay. So let's say if user is offline or server is down for a lot of time, you can have like maximum 10,000 messages or something you will save. That again depends like how do you want to handle it, but you should not clog users' memory also. So if his browser will keep start hanging, and then they will blame you because they will say unresponsive page or something like whatever. So you have to keep a maximum memory limit also, and then uh, cache your events in case of network failure, and you can use smart network detection. So you'll have something like navigator.online. Okay, so that will help you understand that your user is online at least. If the reason that events are not getting sent is that because user lost network, then navigator.online will help you. Otherwise, you can use a service worker which will periodically check if the server is up or not and will send it. So is another thing. And exponential backoff that we discussed in last session. So anyone can tell me what is exponential backoff? No one knows, even if you're not attended to your session. Okay. So basically, exponential backoff is like a way of retrying at a different interval. For example, my API fails, Metrics API call fails. So I will not just keep trying again and again at the same interval. I'll try it first at 2 seconds. I'll try it another time after 4 seconds. I'll try it another time after 8 seconds. Because trying it again and again doesn't make sense if your server is down. If you try it after a certain gap, you might still get the response after the third or fourth request. Got it? So is it clear? Like what is exponential backoff? No worries. Rohit. And in my previous session, we did implement the exponential backoff. So you can see the video recording. I'll share it here also if you want. Uh, so yeah, and other things that you can consider is compression. Like if you have a lot of events, you want to compress them. Another is like sampling. You want to just track a percentage of events at high scale. And the third one is user content consent. It makes sure like you have the privacy setting, like you have taken the proper acceptance from the user, and only are sending if they have agreed. Okay, those are again just the other things. Okay, cool. Yes, we'll share that. Got it. Anything else you guys think is missing to be discussed? Anything else for Metrics SDK?
Uh, this is more of an server side thing, backend. So we have also storage limits there, right? So after some interval, we need to clean up those as well. So basically,
Data that depends on how much you want to save, because like for logs and all those things it will be even more. For metrics it might be less, like 30 days. For logs it will be like 6 months. It depends what kind of data are you storing, and you might not be storing it on your own. You might be storing something like Datadog or some Sentry or like some other places, right? Cool. Okay, so I think that's it for this session. I will send the detailed write up of this. I think I have not added it in the GitHub yet, but I will add it today, and I will send it up as a follow up mail to all of you, or not just all of you. Everyone who registered will get that mail. So I'll upload this video itself. I'll share that link. I will add a link to the article also. I'll have created a detailed article. And also I've created my own website now, so I probably will edit there. So I'll share a couple of links now. Let me close the recording first. I think we are good with this session.